Hey guys, welcome to another episode of PG Comics. I'm Mark Bridge, and I'm here with Zach Worsner.
That's me.
And we took, was it 2 weeks off? Was it 2 weeks or 1 week?
I think it was two.
2 weeks off. So we're just gonna continue along with our Scott Snyder's Batman. We're going to talk about issues 21 to 23 point. Was it 23.1 or was it
Well, the
uh
Riddler one was 23.2,
two?
but I
Yeah.
read I read all of those 23.1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, the others weren't in my they weren't in my book. So
Yeah.
I only read the 23.2.
Right. For newcomers, Mark is reading from his omnibus,
Yeah.
and I am reading from the DC Universe app.
Nice. So this new arc is actually the beginning of the 0 year arc, which is
Long.
yeah, which I guess is Scott Snyder's attempt at doing year one story for Batman. Batman Begins, so to speak.
Year one, right?
Yeah. Um so it has it's the Alfred usually when I sort of read Alfred in my head, it's the Batman animated version of Alfred. But for some reason this version of Alfred, all I heard in my head was Michael Caine. Only because of like his concerns and like his approach to wanting to get Bruce to go back to the mansion. All right, so before we get too deep into that, basically what this first arc anyway, because it's broken down into 3 parts. I think this is like the first part, which is a 3-parter called oh my god, I should have actually, what is it? Secret something?
Um, let's
It's
see. There's nothing on the front.
It's
Oh
called
yeah, the
Secret
Secret
City.
City.
Yeah, Secret City is a 3 part. And then we're gonna get to Dark City, for the next part, which is longer. But yeah, so Secret City.
Yeah,
Um,
and they hint at stuff like they say in the that first issue has the title card part of the issue has these really provocative images of like a jungle cat
right,
and a couple of other things that and the prologue is set you know later.
right.
It has like Batman without a cape and like dressed like he's a Mad Max extra.
Yeah.
um, and they've got some weird imagery that in the on the app there's a director's cut version that's got like notes on
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
and it says that that's kind of foreshadowing of future 0 year stuff.
Ah, okay. Well, mine doesn't do that. Mine straight up begins with the uh Red Hood gang robbing the bank. You know what would be funny if this.
But you don't have the prologue.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me make
Yeah,
sure.
Gotham City 6 years ago.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Hold on.
yeah, I figured that was like
I
part
I
of the issue.
I was on the wrong. I turned to the wrong page. Hold on. So I while I find the page, what is sort of funny? I'm wondering because it gives the strong impression this is supposed to be Joker, right? What if it isn't? What if Scott Snyder pulls a, yeah, you thought it was the Joker, but it's not.
Well, I would be okay with that because
I'm
I mean, for me, the only way that I see him as Joker is because I played Batman Arkham Origins,
You're right.
which was around the same time as this. I think it's actually before, right? Like he's been, this Red Hood, you know,
Right.
thimble man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's not new for this. That's
Yeah,
something older.
that's always been sort of the design of the Red Hood. Well,
It's not
when
even a hood.
when Jeff Loeb, I think maybe before that, but the first time I've seen that version of it was during Jeff Loeb's run on Hush. I think they kind of hinted at that version of the
Well,
Red
that's
Hood.
not that long ago,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's in the aughts.
Oh,
Was it?
okay.
Was it in the aughts?
I
or was it
I had
like
it in my head that it was more recent than that, but you're probably right. I mean,
yeah, yeah. But yeah. The prologue, it does have like a sort of Mad Maxy type feel, but it says 5 months earlier. Um, when it goes to the Red
oh
Hood,
yeah, 5 months. So it's not like present day, present day.
yeah,
It's like
it's still
whatever. I think the whole Gotham in crisis that
right.
is in that
Yeah,
is in that prologue is kind of what defines it as
zero.
the 0 year.
Yeah, I mean, and that backup issue that we read a while back had Commissioner Gordon himself quoting, "Oh, when we first met during the 0 year
Yeah,
type
that made me
deal."
roll my eyes when I read it, but I
Yeah,
was like, all right, we'll see. We'll
yeah,
see. You're tossing that ball in the air. Are you going to catch it or is it going to hit you in the face?
right. Um, so basic premise, at least for the first 3 issues that we read, is Batman, who is not Bruce, who's I guess just returned to Gotham. He's not even living in this mansion, and
He's not
he's
even declared living.
yeah right, and he's being constantly nagged by Alfred to one reveal that he's alive, and two move back into the mansion, and he refuses to do either. And the one person that finds out that he's alive is his Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil finds out he's alive and wants to get him back into the company, which I guess is quite different, right? Usually when you watch these movies about a rich dude returning back from the dead or something like that,
You should have stayed dead.
yeah, right. It's like, stay away from the company, it's mine now type deal. We're trying to kill him.
Although I think the idea is that it's more about the optics,
Right.
of
Yeah.
having a Wayne at the table, even if they're not doing anything at the table.
Yeah.
Would just be good for the company.
Yeah. So he wants him back for the company, and it looks like he's a bad guy, and it turns out one of the things that perpetrated Bruce realizing he's a bad guy, I think he brokered the deal with the Red Hood gang to get some of the Wayne tech weapons. And with Edward Nygma as sort of the man behind the throne of it all.
Yeah, and Riddler already being some kind of criminal.
Yeah.
I don't think we know to what degree he's the Riddler.
Right.
But he's like a guy with your past, your background.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, not. It's not a story of him descending into darkness. He's already there.
Right.
He might not necessarily be as opulent as we know,
mm-hmm.
as we come to know, but he's on his way.
Yeah. So, the thing that Bruce does in this, because he doesn't have any suit or anything like that, he goes undercover with masks on.
As Danny Bonaducci.
Yeah. And, one of the things... Ooh, what is that?
It's Antifa. No. They're playing with firecrackers outside.
Oh, wow. Oh yeah, so during this whole thing too, there's a whole flashback with Bruce's dad. Bruce is having a heart-to-heart with his father about how in the city, he feels like he can be anyone. Like, nobody knows him as Bruce Wayne, the millionaire. So you already seeing the genesis of him sort of adapting to a new persona, so to speak, and I find that quite interesting.
While also kind of pointing out that, like, if Batman operated in Mayberry,
right,
like, they'd be able to narrow the list of suspects down pretty quick.
Yeah.
But, in the city, the big city, 8 million stories in the naked city, or however many people live in Gotham. You know? And they even, not in this specific story,
mm-hmm.
but it's might be in the annual.
Right.
They talk about it's in the Penguin story. He says a lady from Yonkers
Mm-hmm.
won so and so much money at his casino,
Right.
and it's kind of like, oh, so Gotham is definitely New York in
Mm-hmm.
this,
Right.
according to the New 52.
Yeah. 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 Um. Oh, and speaking of Penguin, he's also in this story, but in this, it's Bruce Wayne in disguise as Penguin while he has a real one tapped up during a blimp. Was it? It's a blimp, right?
Yeah, they
Uh,
love their blimps in Batman.
yeah, they do, right? This is where the sort of broker of the weaponry is happening, and Bruce Wayne is pretending to be the Penguin, and he pretty much goes into battle. He tries to electrocute Red Hood. Of course, no dice, and big fight happens, and Bruce escapes. Um,
And like that gun that he uses like melts his guys.
yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
gross.
yeah.
We
So,
can't say ass.
uh, so yeah, Bruce. At this point, um, Alfred is pretty much pissed with him now. Like, because he's thinking he's doing being reckless, but it's not about him being reckless. It's about him sort of killing the identity of the Waynes to become this person when he feels like he has to at least get some balance. Like acknowledge that he's alive, acknowledge the Waynes, acknowledge his birthright. Move back into the house, let people know you're alive, and he was hoping that coming to him would not necessarily facilitate his vigilantism, but more like bring some balance. And when he realized that he's fighting a losing battle, he's like, "All right, I'm out."
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's one thing that this does more than, I think it can't help, it's called Year Zero, so it's gonna be compared to Year One.
yeah,
And one thing that it does, that I haven't read Year One, but I did see the movie
right,
with
right.
Bryan Cranston. Um, who played Batman in that?
I don't even
Yeah,
remember.
some guy. But one thing that this does that's different from that is that the story is much more about Bruce Wayne,
Mhm,
whereas Year One, probably because it's a Frank Miller story,
mhm,
is about the city. And, Batman is like the cure
mhm.
for everything that's ailing the city, uh, by, just Frank Miller's philosophy towards superhero stuff.
Right.
Uh, and, what's great about Frank Miller is that you can never tell if he's endorsing or indicting
Mhm.
that kind of thinking. Um, but he's probably endorsing it. um, he's not Alan Moore. They would have a talk about that over a beer.
Right.
But this is very much because the focus is on the Red Hood
Mhm.
and Riddler. It's not so much, oh, all of these mob guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like Penguin's already there.
Mhm.
So it's very much a story about Bruce Wayne coming home,
Yeah.
which is very much not a part of Year One.
No, no. Yeah, a little bit. I guess that's where you get a little bit of the whole Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan elements thrown in there.
Yeah.
Um, um, and then before we move on to further what's happening in the story, we talk about the two backup stories. Um, One was the pretty much it's showing Bruce that again, this is another element. I don't know if the comics touched this before or this was a Christopher Nolan thing where Bruce, in order to become the best, he's learning from the criminal elements. Like how to know a criminal. He has to become a criminal,
Yeah.
and he's being taught by. So he's in a high speed chase, being taught by what's his name? Freaking Miguel is his name or some shit. I don't remember.
Latino guy.
Yeah, so he's in a high speed chase. He's pretty much learning that ropes, but at the same time, while he's learning that,
He's
it's
busting him too.
yeah. So he's pretty much like pulling a double duty here.
Yeah. I didn't love the backup stories. I thought they were a little too
On the
like, oh,
nose-ish.
gonna make him perfect already.
Right,
Like
right,
he
right.
doesn't really fail in them.
I
Where it's
mean,
kind of like if he's allowed to fail,
yeah,
that would be the time to do it.
yeah, yeah.
You know, to kill a guy and be like, oh, guess I shouldn't do this anymore.
I mean,
But instead, he
yeah.
kind of Mary Sue's his way through fighting like the entire Fight Club.
All right, yeah. But you know what it is? I see it as not necessarily like, oh, he's already good. I just look at the backup stories, which I think are like companion pieces to the issue it's preceding.
Yeah.
Basically like for instance the whole Sphinx thing, right? Where Edward Nigma asks Bruce like, have you ever seen the Sphinx in real life? And he is like, yeah, once, a long time ago. And he uses the fake Sphinx to get out to escape from a party where his uncle throws it, pretty much put him on blast. Everybody knows he's alive. Um, he escapes, and then the backup issue of that is shows Bruce trying to figure out a way. I guess this Russian dude is teaching him how to escape somewhere, and if he doesn't escape, he's gonna be out of breath, and pretty much, he sort of fang dangles his way out with some tech that he just put together, kind of like Iron Man did in the cave in Iron Man 1. Escapes, and then the big reveal is they're walking out of the Sphinx, and the whole spiel about that is that back in the days when people used to create things for their kings and their pharaohs, it wasn't like, oh, we're copying something. There was pretty much nothing to copy, so they had to like think outside the box and do. So basically, what he's trying to instill in Bruce, like, you can't really go by what somebody else does. You have to really think of the impossible and make it happen. And so that's what I was saying. Is like it's less about, oh, this guy is like good, and more about the symbolism of what the each of the backups represent. And jumping ahead, I guess, because I don't want to forget about it, is the last one where he's the Fight Club one, where he's fighting, and he's fighting for like what, 24 hours or some shit, 25.
Something ridiculous.
The idea is like the person who's training him says, listen, you have to, the only way this ends is you have to kill your opponent. And she brings up valid points, which I always say this is the reason why Batman's insane criminals, not the regular thugs that he beat up, but his insane criminals always escapes, because they're like, yeah, Batman will never go to that edge, right? He'll never. It's not even 4th of July yet. What's happening? Right? But he'll never go to the edge. And I always like say that, like, listen, Batman, they figured Batman out. They figured he'll never kill, right? So in essence, it's not really for them, it's for the other guys. Batman has his category, like, these are the villains that I have to really pay attention to. These are the guys that I'll scare into submission. And this backup issue was that, right, where he's taking on these guys until the point where they're like, I don't want to go into this fight with this guy anymore. I'm scared of him. And I think that was kind of like the symbolism for that backup issue, where it's just more like, yes, this is the beginnings of the Dark Knight, the Cape Crusader, the man
Yeah, I
who,
mean, like, it's fine. It colors within the lines of established Batman.
yeah, yeah,
And, I think that when something gets rebooted as much as Batman does
right,
in universe,
mm-hmm,
it's like those are opportunities to draw outside the lines
right,
and like do something different with it, or reveal, be like, oh, this version, his backstory is different because dot dot dot,
yeah,
because he killed a bunch of guys in a fight club,
right,
or because he almost died under the Sphinx,
yeah,
or because he killed cops with this Miguel guy,
yeah, yeah,
uh, and it and it, the main story, the actual issues, do color outside the lines. Like, him fighting with Alfred is like my favorite part, which
mm-hmm.
is totally a nod to that meme, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Is that totally that meme?
It probably is. It
Um,
probably is.
they recreate that in the Adam West Burt Ward animated movie.
Yeah.
I think it's in the second one, Batman versus Two Face.
Uh-huh.
It even has the onomatopoeia of slap
Yeah.
when he does it. It was very funny.
Yeah.
But but yeah, no, I definitely I get it, and I think it works on that level. But I think that there are opportunities to not tell the same story,
Right. Right.
and they take some of those opportunities, but then some of the other ones they look at and just like they let them pass them by.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Uh.
like it's fine.
Yeah. So then, the third part of this, which is the final part of the first, which is, I guess, what you'd call this the prologue. After sort of Philip, Uncle Phil outs him, he escapes the party and goes home and finds out, finds a decoration done by the Red Hood, who pretty much blows his whole shit apart and then, attacks him, like almost beats him to death, and leaves. And you find out that it was Edward Nygma who sent the Red Hood gang after him, and Uncle Phil is not too happy with that and threatens to kill Edward, but Edward's like, you're not gonna kill me, because then they're gonna investigate my death, and with my checkered past, like, they're gonna open up a whole, they're gonna wonder why you hired me. And then he's like, well, when I hired you and you were working on a closed loop, everything that is you is in here, and all I have to say is one word, and like a magnet just wipes everything out. And of course, Riddler pulls his fast one and says, well, I know the password pretty much, and says the password. And because Uncle Phil got brain injury years back,
Yeah, he's got a metal plate in his head.
And it was 1 year before they started to do the non-magnetic metals for metal plates. And of course, it dragged him down, and then he says, all right, I'm leaving this company, I'm gonna go over to Powers, they'll probably appreciate me more, blah blah blah.
Yeah, so now Riddler's like the loose cannon, he's the wild card.
Yeah.
So whatever's gonna happen in the next arc is like,
Yeah.
depends on him, maybe him and Red Hood gang on a crash course. We'll see if there's any interplay between them, because they've been completely separate pretty much so far.
Yeah.
Even though there's potential connections with like the arms dealing, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
And then it jumps to Bruce all effed up.
Yeah. Yep.
Making peace with Alfred. Kind of. They come to an understanding. And then I kind of hate the ending of this.
It's mixed for me. It's kind of, what it is? It reminded me of Zack Snyder's version of when Bruce falls into the well, and there's this whole, I guess, operatic way of Bruce being lifted in the air, and with the bats flying around him. So it's kind of like that, where it's like the artistic version of him realizing, yes, I'll become a bat.
There are things that I like about it and things that I don't like about it. It's weird, like, it kind of feels like it's drawn not so that it looks good as drawings, as comic book pages, but it's drawn so that someday someone will make it into a movie.
Right.
And then it'll look much better that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, the way the cave mixes with the architecture
mansion
of the room, I'm like, that doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't, that's nothing. That's not a real thing.
Yeah, like I said, it's like an artistic thing. It's supposed to, what it is? It's, I played Final Fantasy VII so much. That scene where, after spoilers for Final Fantasy VII, I'm sorry, where Barrett gets stabbed and Sephiroth turns around and the whole building just mixes with the office of Shinra and the whole Genova Dream Reaver aesthetic. I'm thinking it's like that, where it's like, it's supposed to be like, if you were to see it in live action, it'll just like move. Like it's like the cave will start to mesh with the built with his surrounding type deal. That's
Batman, man.
yeah. So yeah, it ends there, and it's kind of like it's the first three parts of this is pretty much him saying, "Oh, uh, he can't." He's gonna put on a suit now, right?
Yeah.
Instead of being like a Mission Impossible type character, putting on
Mm,
different masks, he's actually going to create a symbol of fear to the criminals, going forward.
yeah. I mean, I hate that it's kind of like a Superman Jor-El thing where
Right.
it's like, oh, like he was, he says, "Yes, father, I shall become a bat." It's like, oh, you're doing you it's like your dad is telling you in your head what you got to do,
Right. Right.
and you're listening to that as opposed to taking how you were raised and
Mm-hmm.
who you are.
Right.
It's like you went through all that training to do it, and then all of a sudden, yes, daddy. Like,
Yeah.
like there's definitely super valid counterpoints to that too, because his relationship with his dad is such a big part of
Right.
this Scott Snyder arc entirely,
Yeah. Yeah.
so far. Not just his dad, but the whole Wayne lineage,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the more interesting things so far in it. And I also really like just that image of after the illusion is shattered, the ball rolls off the table. There's actually a bat there,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and then it flies away very quietly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I kind of wish that they didn't even use the ball. I kind of wish that it was just all in his head.
Right. Right.
Like it makes it a little too easy. It makes it a little too logical.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be cool if he's almost like erotically fantasizing about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
about becoming a Batman, and then a bat is just there,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
flies away, and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
cool, dude.
Yeah. I guess it's just one of those things where you have that moment where Bruce decides that he's going to go on this journey, take that extra step, not just what he was doing before in terms of like, okay, he's a vigilante, he's going to try to stop criminals, but he's going to do it in style, right? You have to have that moment. You can't be just like, oh, I'm going to become a bat, right? It's one of those things where it's a thin line, right? It's a thin line between, oh, this shit is corny, to like, oh wow, this is very poignant, you know. Um,
Yeah, I mean the whole conceit of Batman is so
yeah,
contrived
yeah,
to begin with,
yeah,
and every time it's rebooted, they have to come up with a slightly different way of him
yeah,
becoming a bat.
yeah, yeah,
So it's just something we have to deal with.
yeah. I mean, it's funny. Tim Burton said, "Screw that! I'm just gonna just do a Batman movie. He's already Batman."
Yeah, just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Although, gotta give it up to my underrated Batman Forever that does, I think, a pretty good job of doing that origin.
Right. Right.
Um, Thinking back on it, that's kind of like maybe the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. I was 4 years old in 1995 when that came out, and I remember seeing it. I
Mm.
remember being scared by the opening titles because they like come right up at the screen,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I remember being like, "Oh shoot!"
Yeah.
And then once it actually started, that was cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the loud music and the titles coming right at the screen was too much for my 4-year-old head to take.
Batman and Robin was the first Batman movie I've ever seen in theaters. The rest of it was on home video.
I saw
uh,
that one in theaters too.
yeah,
So
it's
you were young enough.
yeah, I know. When did it come on? 97?
I
97?
mean, but you were young enough to have seen Batman '89,
No, but I
or were
was
you
in
still in like Jamaica?
yeah Jamaica, and I
They
never
didn't
went to the
have it?
movies. They
Ah,
they had it. I just never. It's like the theater was in Kingston, and I was in Clarendon, and we had to
okay.
travel all the way. I was like, so yeah, I just waited until all those movies came out on home video and rented them. Um, but yeah, Batman and Robin was the first one I saw in theaters, and I can. The thing that actually sort of was weird about that movie is that someone was next to me or around in the theater that had a very strong cologne, but the thing is the cologne mixed with the AC just made for this great smell. And that's the only good thing I can actually remember about that movie. Good thing, you know what I'm saying? It was like, yeah, it smelled great while I was watching the movie. Um, but yeah, that movie was terrible.
That was one that I saw in the movies, and then I saw it on home video a lot.
Yeah,
And I liked it when I was a kid, but you know, you grow out of it. But
yeah,
I bet I'd still enjoy it if I watched it now.
yeah. I mean, it's good for I guess if you had released that movie and it looked like that in the 60s 70s, that would have been great. But it's like you're following up on Tim Burton, and even Joel Schumacher, he did Batman Forever. It still had
Yeah.
a little bit of serious stuff to it. Like,
I mean,
why
I
you
watched
just
Batman Forever fairly recently in the last like year or two, and
yeah,
I was like, damn it, this movie's friggin' awesome.
yeah, man, that movie's
I
good.
love it.
Kiss from a Rose, top 10. um oh yeah, no, is Bone Thugs did the music for the fourth one. But the next issue, I guess you'll talk about the point
Well,
issues,
do we
but
want to do those, or do we want to do the annual
I'll just
first?
oh, the annual, the damn, it's been so long I read that. The when they're in the asylum, the asylum,
Yes.
um and it turned one of the ladies who were she what is it? Because actually I read that one like last
The
week.
Anchoress.
Yeah. Um.
She like can phase through
Yeah.
matter,
Yeah.
and she's someone who, you know, who has the, who uses Arkham Asylum as an asylum.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and when Batman shows up and starts throwing,
These
like
insane criminals.
criminals
Yeah.
into this mental health establishment,
Yeah.
she's like, she doesn't fit in anymore,
Mhm.
and she winds up being, someone who they take care of,
Yeah.
to someone who they just like, we can't deal with her right now. We got to deal with, this guy who
Yeah.
peels off people's faces or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and all the crazy, all the real crazies.
Mhm.
And then she's just like, oh, okay, well, I'll just sit here and not get old and, you know, become this really scary,
Mhm.
creepy person. And it's great because she's super old, and Batman is, in this story. Right. Because there's a flashback to Zero Year, which is like whatever, arbitrary. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it does tie into her story, which works. I like that.
Mhm.
But it's set, the present,
Yeah.
way later,
Mhm.
the modern time of New 52.
Yeah, because Batman is test driving the prison security, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
by saying, okay, how would someone escape from this? Oh, you need to tighten this up because I was able to do this to escape. Blah blah blah.
Right. And,
Yeah.
right. What happens is in Zero Year, he basically blames her, lets her take the fall so that he doesn't get discovered.
Right.
And that is like the thing that flips her switch.
Mm-hmm.
So from where she goes, someone who, likes being helped, to someone who kind of, becomes resentful and hateful and criminally insane.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's on you, Batman. You freaking did that.
Which it brings up this conversation, which a lot of people, particularly myself, have about Batman in terms of
He's bad guy.
the escalation of it, the consequences of him becoming Batman, right? Yes, he is sort of the medicine that was dealing with a pandemic, so to speak, of Gotham being overrun by criminals. But there are side effects to that medication, right? It's kind of like the medication where it says, "Oh, it's treating this one ailment that you have, but the side effects is death." Right? It's like, holy shit. It's it's almost to that extreme where, okay, now he's beating up these criminals who have sort of taken over the city, but what he's done essentially is now things have escalated. Now the criminally insane sees a new toy to torment. And they're like, oh, I want the attention of Batman. I want him to see me. Maybe I'm the one to be able to beat him, right? So that's one consequence. And then the other is, she's literally had this asylum where it was her home, essentially, after dealing with the death of her parents, because what was it? It was some freak accident that killed her parents or some shit like that. And
I don't quite remember. I think it's the same time that it's like the classic comic book thing of if you fall into a thing of chemicals, you become a superhero or villain.
And then she inadvertently killed him, I think, something like that.
It's kind of like in that accident, it winds up setting the house on fire and they die.
So,
but because of new powers, she survives.
So I think there's been other issues that dealt with something that Batman did that at the time, reading through the lens of Batman, it was heroic. And then years down the line, oh, you remember the thing that you did back then? Well, this is what happened, and now I'm going to kill you because of it. So you gotta wonder, right? The question is, should Batman exist at all, right? Should he exist? But then if he didn't exist, then Gotham probably wouldn't have been. I mean, I don't know how is altruistic the term Superman is. Would he have come to the aid of Gotham if there was no Batman around? Would he say, all right, Gotham looks like a place that needs my help, let me try to clean it up? Or would he be like, oh, Metropolis is just my domain, and yes, I'll go out and help. It's kind of like Oprah, right? Oprah is like super rich. She's very giving. She'll give to the audience in her in her show, but when she does the charity stuff, it's around the world, right? So it's like Superman. I'll help people in Metropolis, but if I'm going to lend my abilities to anyone else other than Metropolis, is going to be the people around the world. I won't necessarily go state to state. So we don't know if it's necessarily because, oh yeah, Batman's got it, or Green Lantern's got it, Wonder Woman's got it, I'll just stick here. Or is it more like, I don't give a shit about any other state but the state that Lois Lane is in?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if it were real life, it would be different.
Right.
Like, and it kind of like on the Arrowverse shows. It's like, why isn't the Flash showing up on Arrow? It's like, well, because Grant Gustin's busy, man.
Yeah.
And if he shows up as a guest star, we're gonna have to pay him a lot more money than he normally would get.
Right.
So you don't take the. That's why was it season 4? Season 4. They kept on using that stock footage of Grant Gustin at the mysterious grave.
Yeah.
That wound up being Laurel's.
Right.
And it's like he didn't have a credit, but it was like, he's in this episode. It's like, yeah, but it's just the same footage from before.
Right.
But like then you go to like the Snyder movies,
Mm-hmm.
And in Batman v Superman, they like, I gotta go to Gotham. It's like, oh man, he's gonna have to go like halfway across the country. Oh no, it's right there.
It's right there. Yeah.
It's like right across the river.
Which is pretty much Zack Snyder thing. That was his little shortcut to sort of like doing the whole meeting of the two, which is, I guess it was a smart idea. New York, New Jersey. Yeah, sure, why not?
Fly. and it's one of those things of like, if he had, I guess they get away with it because he hasn't been around very long.
Right.
He's still new, and not really, busting criminals so much as he's like, working alongside the U.S. government to, whatever the first act of that movie was about. Whatever. I can't right now. But, it would be different in real life, but because, Superman could theoretically be like the world's policeman, and he'd be like the one good policeman.
Yeah.
But, because there's all these, stories that need to be told in any version of the DC universe, they stay in their own cities.
Yeah,
even when it doesn't really make sense.
because the reality of it, right, is right. If Superman was to be the one, like if there was no Batman and Gotham was under this duress with all this criminal activity, Batman, even though he's putting on a picture of fear to them, he doesn't look. He acts in the shadows, so it's like it's still that legend thing. Like, is he real or not? Superman, if Superman was the one to do that, I think the criminally insane would look at this. Oh, this guy's just a god. I'm not even gonna fuck with that right now.
Mm-hmm.
you know, um,
Yeah, I mean, there has to be like mobsters who once they know who Superman is,
yeah,
like if they see him, they're like, all right, I'm out.
yeah, yeah,
My pockets aren't lined with lead. He can see I'm packing heat,
yeah,
and this is not an open carry state or whatever. So I'm just gonna get on the floor.
yeah.
Take me to jail.
So yeah, this issue, this annual, is definitely one of those issues that dealt with that. I think even another issue. I remember. I think it was the Detective Comics one from the new DC 52 that also addressed that very same thing of like there, would these insane criminals exist if you weren't around? Either that, or it was like a forever evil issue that
Yeah, I
dealt
mean
with
they
that.
do that in The Dark Knight Returns as well.
Yeah.
Once it's like a year one thing where criminals, not necessarily, the Batman Rogues Gallery, but criminals have kind of taken over Gotham again.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, looks like I gotta put the mask back on.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he does, Two-Face is like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then as soon as Joker learns about that, he's like, oh, okay, it's open season again, the good old days.
Right.
But yeah, this story is one of the best ones we've done so far. It is Scott Snyder, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
The annual, right? The annual, you
Yeah.
talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's in the omnibus, so it's Scott. Or it could be
like,
James. It could be James. Let me double check.
Well, like not only does it have that element that we that we both like very much in our Batman stories.
Yeah.
It also it kind of examines Batman's Mary Sue status that we talk about a lot.
Right.
Or like it's like that movie Escape Plan, where they get the guy who can get he can break out of any prison, and let's put him in one he can't break out of. And so they do that with Batman, and he breaks out and it's fine. But then like this Wrath of Khan style, a decision he maybe didn't even know that he made,
right?
Comes back to bite him, and she beats him. She gets him. She's about to kill him. She shows him, all of his worst fears. She's like 10 times worse than Scarecrow.
Right.
She beats him in a way that like no amount of Scarecrow toxin was ever able to beat him.
Yeah.
At least in anything that I've read or seen. He's always able to break through.
Yeah.
She shows him Damien, and she's just like, you lost. And she shows him, Court of Owls, and she shows him his dead parents. And it's the two orderlies, like the new guy, who it's like his first day on the job, who saves, and his supervisor, who saved Batman. And like he would have died,
right,
if they hadn't been like, dude, get the hell out of here. They knocked him out of it and broke her control over him, and they save him.
Yeah. So yeah,
the
story is by Scott Snyder and Marguerite Bennett. Actually like her work too, but it's written by her. The script was by her, but the story was by both of them. But yeah, it's a good issue. The annual is pretty good.
Is she gonna be back at all? Do you know?
I no clue.
Okay.
No clue.
Part of me wants to look it up, but part of me is just like, I don't want to look it up if it's gonna happen.
Yeah, let's see how this goes.
It's gonna happen. Let's let it happen. And then if she doesn't show up, then I'll look it up and see where I can find her.
Yeah.
The Anchoress.
So the point issue, I think, again, it's been so long. I think the point issues were going on during the Forever. Was it the Forever
Yeah,
Evil?
it's during. I think it's that which comes after Trinity War,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
which I don't know what it's about, but it has Batman and being gone.
yeah.
He's disappeared.
Um, yeah. It's
And
what
so
happened.
everyone's
Oh
like,
yeah, he did.
Batman's gone, so the villains are going to come out to play.
Well, it was more than that. It was basically what happened was this was Jeff Johns' version of the not Crisis on Infinite Earth. What was that animated movie that came out with Ultraman and Ultraman, which was a Earth 2 version of Superman or Earth 3 version, and they had their version of Wonder Woman as well.
Nah.
Did you see a lot of the DC movies? Let me see.
No, I've seen very few. And I haven't been on DC Universe really that much at all the past 2 weeks.
Right,
Have you know I try to read other stuff as well, but these past 2 weeks I still haven't finished the Long Halloween, which I was reading, the last time we recorded.
right. Um,
But like an all bizarro, well, not bizarro, but the traditional use of the word bizarro, I guess I should say the Seinfeld use of the word bizarro
yeah.
versions of the Trinity show up and beat up our guys.
Yeah. It was. Fuck, man. I'm trying to find this. Yeah. Crisis on Two Earths. It was. It was based on loosely based on JLA's Earth 2 storyline, but it's like, but this is
I
Jeff.
think they did that in one of the Lego Batman games.
Yeah. So it's basically Jeff Johns sort of doing that story but on a much larger scale, where this Superman completely takes over, and he incapacitates Superman. I think Batman is on the run. Like, he's not dead. He wasn't dead at the time. He was just basically he and it's been so long since I read that story actually. But it's him. I think, and oh yeah, this is a story that Dick Grayson gets outed as Nightwing. So he after the story he becomes like Grayson, like his like I guess a cop
He's
or
open
something.
about his identity.
Yeah. So it was no longer a Nightwing comic, but Grayson.
Well, so here's my question about this. Did Scott Snyder, get the memo of what this story was going to be, and he was just like, geez, no, 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 I don't want any part of this. So my prequel thing is going to happen during this.
Maybe, maybe. I mean, or maybe it was just a matter of things lining up perfectly, where he already was going to plan a sort of origin tale for Batman, and it just fell in place where it's going to be happening at the same time as Forever Evil. So it's like, oh yeah, I won't necessarily have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean they had to have they had they have to plan this stuff a
Yeah,
lot
yeah, yeah, they,
ahead because there's so many number ones,
yeah,
villain number ones.
right,
The story ends with like a 2-page thing showing just all the different number ones
yeah,
that are going on. Like Teen Titans is now Deathstroke number one,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Aquaman is Black Manta number one, etc., etc., etc. There's like I don't know 40 different things here.
yeah. So the all the point.
Trigon, no one even knows what that is.
Well, Trigon is what's his name? The Titans. That's one of their main villains.
Yeah, I know because I keep on seeing the name on all the headlines, but I
Yeah,
didn't watch Titans
yeah. It's
on DC.
is she I think Raven is his daughter, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe somehow related to that character. Like Trigon is like yeah, but yeah, man. Which is actually I have HBO Max and Titans on that, so I'm gonna be watching that because I missed a bunch of episodes. It was right around the time I stopped watching cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons or weekdays cartoons. So I would catch a couple of episodes here and there, but I really didn't pay too much attention to it. But the episodes that I did watch were good, and I really heard from a lot of people that it's a classic series. So I will be diving back into that. So the only issue I read out of the sort of point issues is the one that's in the book, which was written by Scott Snyder, is the Riddler issue.
Don't worry, blows the guy's arm off.
Yeah, right. So it features. It showed like first it opened with I guess Riddler in prison and sort of getting his cards taken away from him, and as a punishment, he takes away a sheet or something like that. No sheet for you or some
I
crap
think
like.
the idea is that he maybe made the cards out of the sheet.
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
Probably. And then it flash forward to when he's the Riddler and he's getting ready to do some shit. And one of the shit that he does, he goes to Wayne Tower and he sabotages it. I guess were they implying that he's the one who instigated the riots? Or was that something? Because he was saying all like key phrases.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's all just part of. Part of his scheme. He didn't take advantage of the scheme. He didn't take advantage of the riots to forward his scheme.
Yeah.
He created the riots as part of his scheme.
Yeah. So then, he pretty much is circumventing every security measure that Wayne Tower has to get to the top. For what reason, we don't know. And he's taking dudes out left and right, and then he gets to the top floor. Oh my God, he really beat the crap out of that woman.
Yeah, because
like I don't care.
The thing that we forget about Joker, about Riddler, is that he is a psycho.
Yeah, right.
He has those psychosis. Well, for him, it's that superiority complex, that narcissism of like how dare you even look at me?
Yeah.
And, he's not much of a fighter, but he's got a big old can and he can hit people with it.
Right. So he pretty much, really did a number on her. I don't even know if she's dead or alive. And he gets up top and he's facing off with one guard, and you think, he's like, all right, he's gonna make quick work of this guard and then go about what his big plan was. And the big twist, the twist is that he went through all of that just to get to the guard, because the guard was the one that really stopped him from playing cards in that one little cold open.
It's an interesting thing, because then it ends with him, on the roof just playing cards, having succeeded in a scheme that he enacted really just because he can.
Yeah.
Kind of just to test himself. And it's one of those things where, like, did Batman create these guys? Maybe. Would Riddler still be a criminal without Batman? Yes, because he was before.
Yep.
But would he be the Riddler?
Yeah, probably not. I think it is.
Possibly not. Probably not.
Batman caused them to level up, pretty much.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where you go, oh, well, Batman needs to go away so that these guys will go away. But it's like, oh, no, he already created them.
Yeah.
Now if he goes away, they're not just going to stop necessarily. Mm-hmm. Especially if he goes away suddenly. They're going to take over Arkham City.
Yeah.
Arkham Knight. That's... Batman is not a healthy thing for a city. Mm-hmm. But once he's there,
right,
you can't just take him away.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that story. I thought it was pretty good, and it worked with Zero Year, and it worked with we see him one way, then we see him as the Riddler, and now we're gonna see him inch ever closer to
that version. And what I also was happy with how it ended, in terms of like, you half thought like, oh yeah, I guess once he gets to the roof and he's playing the cards and he's monologuing to himself, turns out he's talking to Batman, like he's gonna turn around and Batman is gonna be there, and it's like, all right, I did what I came to do, now lock me up, whatever. I was glad they didn't sort of had that cliche ending. It was like, Batman shows up on the roof, but they did say Bruce was in vacationing. Maybe he really was vacationing somewhere abroad. So yeah, you can't beat Batman in that if he's away. He's not
Yeah,
Superman to like super fly.
I imagine in like whatever storyline is after 0 Year, there'll probably be like one line to be like, "Oh no, I'm back now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Don't worry about it."
So yeah, cool start to 0 Year. I'm very psyched to see what happens going forward. How Scott handles his year one. He tackled his Joker story already. He tackled his original story with the whole Court of Owls. Like, this is what I'm bringing to the table. Then So now let me and I guess because we are always talking about how the the new DC 52 mandate is everything has happened within 5 years of each other, and Scott has been like, yeah, whatever you say, and just totally ignore that. But I guess this is sort of him like, all right, I'll give you an inch, and said this was 5 years earlier. I don't know. Did it say that it was 5 years earlier or 6 years earlier? Something like that.
Well, it's just under. I think it does say at some point,
Yeah.
but like with that whole 5 years, it's just understood to be
Yeah.
that many years.
Yeah. So
it's one of those things where like really they all showed up
yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the Avengers when they dig up Captain America,
Right.
at the end of the first
Yeah.
Avenger, and then into it's like, oh, they what amazing timing that they dug him up right before an alien invasion.
It's funny they did do the prequel comic book before the Avengers called Fury's Big Week. Yeah. And within that week was Thor's appearance, the Captain America thing, and I think the Iron Man 2 situation happened around that. Oh, and Hulk. All happening around in 1 week of each other. Which, again, going on a tangent, this whole thing with how Spider-Man threw off the timeline with the 8 years later situation, where Marvel tried to fix it themselves and screwed it up. And I'm like, yo, there's a simple explanation to all of this, right? It's real simple, guys. From Iron Man 2 to the Avengers is 1 year. Duh. Just do that. You know what I mean? And, but they're like, now, the movies take place in the year they were, and it's like, all right, whatever you say.
I think the idea behind the 8 years specifically was so that each of the Spider-Man years, even movies, even though they're released 2 years apart, could be set 1 year apart.
Yeah.
Where he's a sophomore, then a junior, then a senior.
Mm-hmm.
But like, A, that didn't happen, and B, now it's definitely not happening.
Yeah, I mean,
the whole MCU being pushed back.
And then it's the whole thing is like, they always try to start the movies when he's in high school and saying, all right, this is the series that will keep him in high school forever. No. You hired an actor that is clearly getting older. You can't do that.
Yeah. You just gotta accept comic book
unless you're gonna make 3 movies within a year. Within that year, do it like Lord of the Rings style. You're not gonna.
Yeah.
You're not gonna.
Maybe that's how they should have done it.
Probably.
Maybe they should have spent $650 million.
One of these superhero movies, Batman, the Batman Nightfall storyline. I really feel you could still do it now, regardless of the fact that they put Bane in Dark Knight Rises. There's still
White Bane.
There's still a chance to do a Lord of the Rings style Batman trilogy, shot back to back to back. Nightfall. That's still a huge story that can be told in the medium of film that is being a lost opportunity. Like, opening of the movie is just basically Batman dealing with the consequences of what Bane is dealing with, and then the end of the movie, he gets his bat broken. Second movie is John Paul Valley, whoever he hires to be, John Paul Valley he has to be that guy. yeah, when we get to reading that storyline, you'll find out who that guy is.
Okay.
Uh, he's doing his best to be Batman, but can't measure up to the man, and decides, you know what, screw this. I'm going to use the program that taught me to be an assassin, and I'm going to augment this suit to my liking.
Was
And
that Azrael?
yeah,
Ah, I know Arkham City.
yeah. So he puts on the suit, and each time he goes out, he finds better ways to augment the suit. Like the first thing he did was create like a gauntlet for it, instead of having all the grappling stuff on his utility belt, he just has everything else on his gauntlet. The little batarang stuff, the grappling hook, all in his gauntlet. And then the next thing you realize, well, these guys are using Gatling guns. I can't protect myself in this rubber suit. I need armor, for crying out loud. And he puts on a metallic armor, and then he says, well, why am I covering half my face? Why not just go all the way and just cover the whole thing? And then just pretty much goes out as a freaking knight, an actual knight, pretty much, and with flamethrowers on his arm. With like, there's an issue where this guy has a chain gun, and it's damn near almost ripped him to shreds, right? So what he comes back with a tougher suit and a chain version of the batarang, where he can shoot him out like there's a panel, right? The first panel is, you see like one little on the targets. Then the second panel on the targets. And then the third panel is being ripped apart because he has the whole Gatling batarang stuff in the back of his thing, and he's like, turns it to full blast. That was a dope panel, and I want that movie. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Warner
there's
Brothers.
one day.
Warner Brothers.
Few more reboots down the line.
Yeah. Because we gotta see what Matt Reeves does, right?
Yeah, he'll do fine.
And then there's what are the chances that Ben Affleck puts the cowl back on again? What do you think?
0.
You think 0?
Yeah.
Are you excited? Are you excited for DC fandom?
No. Not really. I'll cover the headlines.
Right.
I might write about it. Although I'm mostly doing games right now. But we'll see. I'm not uninterested in it. But I really don't like jumping on the hype bandwagon for that kind of stuff, because it's like, hey, I'll see it when I see it. Like, if I was super hyped for Wonder Woman 1984, I'd be pissed right now, because that movie was supposed to be out by now.
And
maybe.
It's
I think this week, right?
It was actually a May release.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
It was a May release. Then it, no,
Right,
actually
the
it
first
was.
one was June.
Actually, no. I think June was
Well, it was supposed to come out for like Christmas.
It's last year it was supposed to come out last year. Then they pushed it to this year. I think, yeah, you're right. I think it was
And
June.
now they pushed it to like November.
It moved from June to August, and then from August to, is it November? No, it's October. Actually, is it?
Yeah.
Is it November?
But either way, it's not soon.
Yeah.
So, I just, I worry about what's in front of me right now.
Yeah.
I think the hype train, even though it makes me a lot of money when I get those clicks, it's not as interesting to me as the actual art itself.
Yeah.
Who was I just talking to? Was it someone I was interviewing, or was it something that I saw or read? Oh, it was when I interviewed Will Patton. He didn't drop any names specifically, but he says, I see a lot of movies, the big movies now, they're much more about like the hype and the anticipation and the marketing than the actual movies themselves.
Yeah.
And the best superhero movies, they do both.
Yeah.
But so it's that weird thing where sometimes the more hyped a movie is, the more I'm kind of like expecting to go see a corporate product.
Right.
Versus if I see a movie that I've never even heard of, I can see it without having so many plot details spoiled for me in advance,
Mm-hmm.
and people dissecting the trailers and taking every single behind the scenes photo that comes out and you know figuring everything out. Kind of just go in blind, have a good time.
Yeah.
You might like it,
Yeah.
maybe you won't. Who knows?
We'll see. Um,
Magic of the movies.
let's see what big announcements they'll do. I mean, not necessarily me, but I think a lot of people will be disappointed if the DC fandom happens and there's no major announcements other than what we've heard already.
Is Zack Snyder going to be there?
Yes. Because
Is Jeff Johns going to be there?
fuck no, probably not.
They're going to be there together?
It's funny. I just looked at the screenplay for 1984, and his name is right there along with Patty Jenkins. Jeff Johns, yeah. Story by Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns.
Wow.
Screenplay by Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, and David Callahan.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
What's David Callahan from? Mortal Kombat? Oh, the new movie? Oh my god. So guess what?
What?
So there have been reports that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is taking elements from Mortal Kombat, as in the tournament aspect of it. David Callahan is the writer of both the current Mortal Kombat that's about to be released and Shang-Chi.
Oh, that's funny.
So he just aped himself.
The guy. Wait, do we know who's playing Shang Tsung? Shang Tsung. The Mandarin. Is it going to be Shang Tsung?
No. It's actually a very popular Asian actor. Actually,
A CGI Bruce Lee.
right?
I know David Callahan from the Expendables.
Yeah, Tony Leung. I think Tony Leung was in one of the Infernal Affairs movies, wasn't he?
I don't know. I didn't see any of those. Just The Departed.
Oh, Hard Boil. He was in Hard Boil.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I've seen. Yeah, he was in Infernal Affairs.
Will Scoot McNairy be in Shang-Chi?
Who the fuck is? Oh, wait, who's that?
He's in. He was the crippled guy in Batman v Superman. But
Oh yes.
All Hail the King.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe. We'll
I'm
see.
very excited for Phase 4 and beyond.
It just sucks that it's being delayed, right? Because it's like
I'm okay with it because like post Endgame, like let it breathe.
I know. It's just that sometimes you just wanna.
I know.
See some cool shit, man. It's like
I want Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 right now.
Exactly.
As well, but we're gonna have to wait a couple years.
Exactly. Hopefully, it is just 2 years and not like 5.
Yeah, 2 years.
Because it's like, I mean, and I was thinking about this too. It's that part of the podcast where we just riffed on shit, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's done. So if you're watching, expecting new DC revelations, and insights.
So the whole thing about they're always using Kingdom Hearts as an example of why shit is always taking long. It's like, look at Kingdom Hearts. The first number 2 came out in 2005, and number 3 came out in 2019. You see how long it took? But they're negating the fact that Tetsuya Nomura worked on like 10 different Kingdom Hearts games in between 2 and 3, right? He was constantly making Kingdom Hearts games.
And like 2 of them are like really good.
So it's like, it's not like he was just not doing anything. And it's not like he was doing other things other than Kingdom Hearts. He was making Kingdom Hearts. He just wasn't making the numbered ones, or so to speak. He was just basically building on the
Scooch. Continue. He'll move.
He was just building on the story. So unless we're gonna get uh Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 7 games for like that are like mobile based for him that takes place between this game and whatever part 2 ends up becoming, I think we're pretty much getting part 2 very soon. Uh like I
Yeah,
said,
that's like that's the thing is he gonna pass on Kingdom Hearts to someone else? Is he gonna try to do both? Is Kingdom Hearts going on hiatus even though they've got that rhythm game coming
yeah.
out, which like I'm so hyped for.
Yeah, I think he
Um,
can. Here's the thing: he can work on multiple titles at the same time, and it's proof in the pudding. The fact that the movie Final Fantasy Advent Children came around the same time as a couple of, at least one of the Kingdom Hearts games, which meant he was directing a movie while directing a game. That's one. Number two, he is not the only director on Final Fantasy VII Remake. His name came
yeah,
first, but there's two other directors, Toriyama and I forgot the other dude's name. Um, so there's three directors. So he has help. He's not Kojima, which is I think is to his advantage. While Kojima is in desperate need of some checks and balances. Death Stranding, anyone? Like I love that game. I love that game. It's just come on. It's an
I'm not touching this one.
it's an exercise in indulgence, so to speak. I'm going to make a game where you walk from point A to point B, and you're gonna love
Hell
it.
yeah, hell yeah. He said, "I'm going to take an open world game
A fetch
and
quest,
actually make it open world."
yeah, an open world game where the main gameplay is the fetch quest that you hate in open world games.
Not even the fetch quest. It's the gameplay is the part that you can usually skip
Yeah,
in open world games, which is just getting from one place to another.
right.
It's just like, no, you want to go there? You gotta walk there.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, like I said, I have great things to say about Death Stranding, but at the same time, because this man is like a one man machine who decides that every aspect of the game, his name will be on it. Either edited by Kojima, story by Kojima, written by Kojima, programmed by Kojima. I'm sure there's plenty of other programmers there, but with Tetsuya Nomura having these other elements coming into the game with him, you can see parts that are Final Fantasy 13. You can see parts that is Final Fantasy 12. You can see parts that is Kingdom Hearts. You can see parts that's 15, because I'm sure people from the 15 came on board as well to help out. You can see elements from different facets of the game that if it was any other director said, no, I want this to be a completely Nomura production. And I think that will help speed up the process. It works so far. You always say too many cooks in the kitchen, could always be a bad thing. What's a full line? Because we always stop at too many cooks, but there's a whole thing after that, isn't it? Spoils too many cooks.
Probably too many
Cooks
spoils
spoils
the
the
meal.
spoils something, right? But anyway, it so far has worked, and I think it's always worked for the most part with most of the Final Fantasy games, because it's not just one director. You will always have the main director, like uh, um, that's sort of like his front loaded. But when you look, scenario director, cinematic director, it's a completely different people who's behind those aspects of the game. So yeah, I'm crossing my fingers that we'll get Final Fantasy 7-2 or Rebirth. Hopefully, I hope it's called Rebirth. That would be a cool title, but it's probably not what it's called, Rebirth.
Could be. I do think it'll be something.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we'll get that 2022. I think 2022. I think the latest will be 2023, like first quarter of 2023, especially with the whole COVID
I
situation.
could see it being 2023 if 2021 gets remake of remake on PS5.
Right.
or PC. You
Yeah,
know.
but I don't think they will be sort of involved with that. They always like PC ports are always handled by a separate studio for the most part. When it comes to AAA titles that gets ported to the PC later, I know like Rockstar, I think handled it themselves. That's why it took so long.
Yeah, Rockstar handled theirs themselves.
Um,
Uh, where Naughty Dog handled theirs themselves for The Last of Us, not for Uncharted.
right.
And I
Right.
think and Square Enix did it themselves for Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Again, it depends on the workload. They might just sort of have somebody else or one of their other business division handle the port. Are they going to fix some of the texture stuff involved? Are they going to remove that JPEG picture from the the plate under the plate and actually have fully rendered cityscapes? Who knows? Maybe. Um, but yeah, like if that porting takes the team away from working on 2, I think they'll probably have someone else handle that. At least I would hope they would do that. I mean, because the thing is, we already have a good game on the PS4, so it's like if they put out a bad port, it's not gonna be the end of the world. I mean, I hope they don't, but it's not like I'm gonna be like, no, you ruined it. I'll be like, all right, it's a bad port. I'll just stick to the PlayStation 4 version. Um, but yeah, that I guess it should bring us to the end. We've sort of tackled everything Batman related so far. So the next group of issues we'll be talking about is 24 to so Dark City Part 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's 24 issue 24 to 29 will be covered in next week's episode, which is entitled Dark City, which will be the sort of the middle act of the
Okay,
0-year story.
It's a straight shot.
So you don't have like any sort of annuals or one-offs in there?
24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29.
Awesome. Okay, good. That's how it is in my book too. So, because the thing is, the point 2 issue is actually at the end for me.
Huh.
So it wasn't mixed in within. So because I guess they wanted the story to flow. So they wanted to put like the offshoot issues somewhere at the end. So yeah, we'll be covering those issues next week. All right. So that brings us to the end. Where can people reach you at?
You can find me on Twitter at my name, Zach Wojner, and you can read my work at screenrant.com.
All right, and you can find me on the Twitter at Marky Tundra. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram at Pop Culture Galaxy. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and the subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we are also doing this live on Twitch, so you can go head over there on Twitch and hit that follow button so you can get the alerts and when we're doing streaming. And speaking of streaming, we've been playing some Destiny, which is pretty fun so far. And I'll be streaming when we're not playing Destiny. I'll be streaming other games as well. And I plan to put YouTube only playthroughs of games going forward. Like I'll be putting The Last of Us on YouTube, but I know Zach, you're planning to stream the game when it comes out, correct?
Yeah, I'll be streaming it. I'm gonna be streaming pretty much everything I play, and if I remember, I will archive those streams in their own little playlist.
Mm-hmm.
On the Pop Culture Galaxy channel.
Right. So yeah, lots of stuff planned. This COVID situation has been, I guess, if there's one silver lining in this whole thing, is that I find that I have more time to stream now. Hopefully, I can.
Not me.
Well, yeah,
I'm freelance, so I'm working more than ever.
You've always been working on the internet, so nothing's changed for you. But for me, I'm no longer going out into the world to work because I have to stay my ass home. But now that I'm home, I will be playing lots of video games, including the Final Fantasy series, because I've gotten my Final Fantasy itch. I've played the Final Fantasy VII Remake to death. I've finally taken it out of my box and put it into this case, but I still need more Final Fantasies. I'm actually playing 12 right now. I'm going to play 12 again once I do the official linear playthrough of all the series, but by the time I get to 12 again, I've already been beaten 12 now, so it'll be some time, because there's so many games I have to play that Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and I plan to sort of inject in between some of my Final Fantasy playthrough with games within that release. For example, after Final Fantasy 6, after I finish Final Fantasy 6, knock on wood, hopefully I get that far, I'm this ambitious thinking right here, but if once I get to Final Fantasy 6 and finish that game, instead of jumping to 7, I will be playing Chrono Trigger, because it was right around the time before Final Fantasy 7 came out. It was still on the Super Nintendo. It's right around Final Fantasy 3, which is 6. So yeah, it's around that era. And then after I finish Final Fantasy 7, and I think after 7 I'll go to 8, but then after 8 I'll go to Xenogears, finish that, because I still have Xenogears here, which I've never completed in my entire life.
I've never played it. I've always wanted to. I have it digital on PS3, but I've never gone into it.
Yeah. So after Xenogears, I go to Final Fantasy 9, which I've never completed, and after Final Fantasy 9, there's another game that I have here which I've never completed. I've had this game for years, decades even. I've never finished it, and that would be Legend of Dragoon. So then after Legend of Dragoon, that will be sort of the last RPG within the PS1 era, sort of text only, even though Legend of Dragoon and Xenogears have voiceovers within the some of their cutscenes, but for the most part it's text. And then we'll move on to the fully voiced, well, mostly voiced era, which starts with 10, and then it's 10-2, and then after that I think I'll tackle after 10-2. Do I jump on to 12? I think there was a game. I actually wrote a list down too. Right here. So yeah, so after 10 and 10-2, because I have these, which I've never played before. It's like I'm using it as a way to backtrack and play all the games that I have. I've never gotten a chance to beat. So after 10 and 10-2, I'm going to be playing Xenosaga Trilogy.
You even have part 3?
Yes. Well, I have 3 on emulator. I have part 1 and 2. I have part 1 and 2, the physical copy.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't have 3, so I had an emulator for that shite. Then from after that, then 12, and then Kingdom Hearts, because I never got the chance to play the trilogy. I mean, that's so way down the line, but I might sneak in
one game at a time. Game at a time.
I might sneak in some Kingdom Hearts here. Like I'm sneaking Final Fantasy 12 at the moment, which I'll
play it when you play. You play what you want when you want.
But for purposes of streaming and cataloging and whatever. And then after Kingdom Hearts, then I'll jump on to Final Fantasy Type 0, which I also have. Not only I have it for Xbox, this is the game that I got with Xbox One, my purchase for Xbox One. This game came with it, but then I bought it for PC, which I'm going to play the PC version. And then Final Fantasy 13 Trilogy, and then another game that I have is on PS3, Star Ocean. The fourth one, I think, till End of Time or some shit. I don't even remember. The Last Hope. Sorry, the Last Hope. I have that. I never got a chance to beat it. And then, by the time I get to that, I should at least be up to Shadowbringers of Final Fantasy 14. I'll be playing Shadowbringer on stream, and then Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, and then that would wrap up my whole. And then I'll probably jump into Final Fantasy 7 Remake again, just to be like shakes and giggles. So that is my plan, guys. That is my plan. That's my
Yeah, I'll be streaming The Last of Us, and then The Last of Us 2, and then after that, who knows? We'll see.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Probably the original Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 15.
Right, right.
But, like, you know, who knows when that'll be.
I modded Final Fantasy 7. Oh, that shit looks beautiful. I even have it's probably blasphemy, but I did there's a modded version of the score. Um like some of the tracks are redone.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. You know how I feel about the PS1 sound chip.
Yeah, and including the including the let the battle begin.
Like retro sound chips in general, like even like SNES, like yeah, Chrono Trigger's got a great score.
Yeah.
Too bad you have to play it on a freaking microwave.
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, let the battle begin. They remade that to where it's you hear the chorus part of the opening of Final Fantasy VIII mixed in. Actually, it's well done, man. When you heard it, it was like, holy shit! It mixes. Oh damn!
And I'm not terribly interested in mods in general. Although I do know that there's like a mod for Final Fantasy VII that's like it like adds bosses and like rebalances the whole thing.
It's called a new threat mod.
Yeah,
it changes. I'm not playing that. I rather stick to the original in terms of the storyline. But as far as quality of life changes, I modded it to give that new coat of paint, so to speak. You know, so that motivates me to actually play it more. I actually started it too, and I'm out of Midgar section. I'm past Com. I'm actually up past. I'm actually at Junon now. Actually,
nice.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's the plan going forward. Hopefully, I can make it happen. You know, anything can happen within the now and tomorrow and the next few months. So let's see how it shakes out. All right, guys. So that brings us to the end. So until next time, folks, I want to say peace.
Indeed.